All right. All right. Well, welcome to my talk. Thanks for sticking around. It was a great talk, Tommy, before. Good job. So I'm Martin. I work at Behaviour. So quickly, let's start with just a quick video of, if you haven't heard of us, this is kind of the stuff that we've done, we worked on.
It's one thing to have imagination, but it's another to harness its power to work on your vision. And co-develop with partners. To make it a reality. At Behaviour, we're crafting the imaginary into play.
All right. So like I said, I'm Martin. I'm an executive tech director at Behaviour. I started there 14 years ago. It was the start of my game career. And this time I worked on over 30 titles in 19 different engines. So it was quite a ride. But a bit more about what we do at Behaviour. So we're an independent game studio working for more than 30 years now. We're about 1,300 more in Montreal, Toronto, and Seattle. We have a studio in Millsboro and Truro, and one in Rotterdam. So we've worked over 250 games over this year, and I've won a couple of awards for Big Space to Work. Thank you. So we do a lot of external development, working with other AAA studio on a variety of other titles. With that, we also have our own original IP. The best known is obviously Dead by Daylight. It's been going on for 8 years, 60 million players, and 1 million player per month. And it's one of our own best known titles, like I said, IP as a service, and we have a few other titles out and in the making. But enough about that. Let's talk about generative AI. So where are we now, and how we use it, and what the best way we can use for not only, and we'll get to that. So these are the big players. You've seen them before. You've seen them in the giant slide that Tommy have. These are mostly the big ones. I mean, but the field is very much in flux. There's always companies like jumping in, jumping out, and leaving the market regularly. Throughout the years, there's been a lot of claims about what generative AI can do, like increase your productivity by 1,000,000%, like being human-like in creativity, and like making the best decision, pass the bar, be a better doctor or whatever, or replace all your artists and programmers on all your games, whatever. There's also people saying like AI will be the death of us, as the same level as a pandemic or nuclear war, or that AI will replace every human in the field and that we can just queue up to get our daily bread or something. And as always, like it's going to replace all artists and programmers and all the game. The truth is like somewhere in between, right? But if you're looking at all that, if you're an individual contributor, you might be thinking like, oh shit, like where's my job in the future? And if you're a business owner, you're like, well, I mean, I got to jump on that boat. Otherwise, like my company's out in a few years. I mean, I mean, we've seen talks like this before. We've seen revolutions like this before, or things pertaining to be revolutions. So to a certain extent, like, let's look at a few of the things that happened in the past. If you look at animation, like mocap was seen as a revolution for animation, yet, like, I mean, we still have 3D animators working on various different things. We even have more than we did before in projects. Sculpting for 3D modeling was a giant change, but we still have modelers for various things. Substance Painter, that was a good story told by a creative director of a friend of mine who said, like, when Substance Painter came in, texture artists were like, I'm going to lose what I'm going to do, like just copy paste stuff on top of each other. And then they went to learn the tool and did various things. And now they just have a different job. Obviously, going from Polygon from pixel art to Polygon from the early consoles to now was a big change as well. But I mean, there's still a gazillion load of artists on every project. That was something that also happened if you go back to the 1800s for when photography came along. There's a great article there about the Smithsonian about some attributed quote to a French journalist saying, like, photography is new, painting is dead. And then suddenly after that, it was like Impressionism, Cubism, and a bunch of other things that happened to painting that, you know, painting was still very much alive. And there was a lot of artists that were fervent painters that eventually grew to incorporate photography in their art. So, I mean, it's not the first time that we've seen people saying like things are going to change. And yes, they do, but they don't change dramatically. And even if we look further at the gaming world itself, like going from arcade cabinet to home appliances to the mobile game revolution, gaming has grown a lot, but I mean, there's still an arcade like 2 corners from here, and it's still pretty much alive. And people still have PS5 at home, even though they have a mobile phone in their pocket at all time. And on the tech side of things, like if we go back even 10 years, like every studio had like 1, 2, or 3 proprietary engine, and now we have a game engine as a product. That really changed the market, but there's still people developing games. There's still programmers, even though we're not all building engines now. Obviously, there's things that didn't pan out yet or at all. Like if you go a year back, there was big push for like, hey, let's use VR for level creation. Let's use VR for level art. Like if I look around the studio, nobody's doing VR for level creation because you know what? Their neck can't support that for 8 hours a day. Let's not even talk about metaverse and Web3. This is whatever. I mean, there's also various platforms that didn't work. Like the N-Gage was probably 10 years before it was going to be practical. It was supposed to revolutionize, didn't work anything. The Ouya was super big, and then it wasn't at all. And Stadia is another Google product that's somewhere in the bin. But the way we look at this, like for generative AI, for us, it's like one way to look at it. And that's not the way to look at it. You have to talk about copyright and the ethical problems and everything. That's super important. But one way to look at it is to use pragmatism as a technical choices, right? You have to be smart about things, and usually being smart, being pragmatic and staying grounded. You can't just look at stuff in the sky and saying, oh, it's all wonderful. So like basically find what works for you, and especially what doesn't work for you. Understand the limitation of technology and how to deal with them. And that basically goes through like doing prototypes, doing tests on real actual problems and real actual data, and doing what we call like fact-finding missions, like looking through all the documentation, looking through all of them, reading stuff, and then trying it. So the methodology we use, and I mean, it's not rocket science. Basically, you set a clear goal of what you want to accomplish with AI. You stick to it, and you budget your time. Just don't go open-ended and say, let's have 2 years to start to make it. Like, just say, what's the minimum time to get a proper answer? And a non-conclusive answer is a valid answer. If you don't know if something's working, if it's not clear if it's working, or if it's not clear if it's getting the result you want, then it's not giving you the result you want. It's just not working. Right? So some conclusions from the test that we've done in-house and the stuff that we've seen. Some are pretty obvious. You'll see some are a bit more non-obvious. So obviously, there's different tools, different algorithms they're best for different problems. They all have trade-offs for speed, accuracy, cost, token limits. Like the table that Tommy sent, like there's a gazillion providers of different services. They all pertain to do different things, and they all have different, so like try them. If you want to see what it does, look at what they offer, try them, and see what the best are for the problems that you need, not the problems that they say they solve. Talking about tokens, like they're often your biggest hurdles. Token limitation will limit your context size, and by context size will limit the output cohesiveness. And if you're thinking of generating art and generating variants of things, it will limit variant uniqueness, especially if you're doing tests, if you're doing art, whatever. So that's one of the big things you need to look into, and that's going to like saddle all of your problem that you're going to solve later. Another thing that we found out, and I guess that's pretty obvious, but like ambiguity leads to ambiguity. So if you're training an AI model to generate, so that was a test using to generate projectile spawning in Unity. But you know what turns out? Unity's API has some level of ambiguity. The transform world position and rigid body world position are not symmetrical. And the Copilot basically said like, oh, just map one to the other, it's going to work. And then you turn around, you reparent something, and then the projectile go this way. And it's not the model's fault, more or less. It's because the API is unclear. And if you think all the APIs are clear, maybe I can sell your bridge or something. Another thing that we stumble upon is like sometimes you have to massage a lot of the data and do a lot of processing to get something working. So like one is it too much hand-holding? So the use case in this case was we're trying to find like the dream, like QA logs a bug and the AI could find what CL it resolved, what CL caused it, right? it's not as simple as you might think, and you have to do a lot of. I'm not going to read all of this thing. Basically, like we had to give the model a list of common issues, because no model was trained on a lot of specific AR and real issues, because a lot of these questions are asked on private forums like either Nintendo or Xbox or private Sony tickets. So we had to build a list of the stuff that happened and then feed it in. We also had to strip descriptions, strip call stack to minimize context, because if you explode the context, then you end up costing more or not fitting in and not getting the answer you want. The models obviously don't understand per-force branching hierarchy, so you have to point it the right place manually. And then, like, again, once it thinks it knows that one of the change lists is good, then you sort of, if you extract the diff, you have to strip everything out because it's too big. But if you strip everything out, then it doesn't really know what those two lines are in. Like, is it in that function or this other function? Like, we were doing a lot of unfolding to get an answer that was like maybe 50% right. Is generative AI the right tool for the job in this case? If you're doing a lot of manual processing, like maybe. It depends what you're solving, and it depends how much time you're willing to put into to get an answer that might be the right thing, right? But more or less, like if you're looking at all these problems, it's all about validation. Like if you have a problem that's harder to validate, if you're generating code and you need to run a bazillion tests and send it to a QA team to figure out is the code doing the right thing you want, or if you have you need to look at external sources. Like for example, you say like, oh, Midjourney, draw Napoleon holding a gun. Like Midjourney doesn't know if Napoleon is right-handed or left-handed. So but somebody will know if you publish that image. So you need to look it up and make sure, oh, it's in the right end. So anytime you have to do this sort of external validation, it's just lengthening the process. It doesn't mean it's bad. It means you're spending more time making sure AI did the proper job, right? Again, like one of the things that's super hard to validate, like if you're saying, oh, Midjourney, like draw me a computer circuit. Obviously, it's going to be wrong, and things are going to be connected the wrong way because it doesn't know what it's doing. It's not like a computer, micro-engineer. Same thing, like if you're asking ChatGPT to generate a novel, the novel is probably too big so that it's missing consistency between characters and time and space and everything else. Is it going to get there eventually? Probably not at the moment. And on the flip side of things that are easy to validate means there's super rapid iteration, like subjective result. Like if you're generating images and just want to know, does it look good? Then like it's instantaneous. If you have code that's easy to validate, you have unit tests that run in seconds. Generate the thing, run it, it's good. You know it's good because you tested it. And on the extension of this, if you have validation that's entirely automated, regardless of the time it takes to run it, you could just generate a bunch of solutions, all run the test in parallel, and pick the one that works best, right? So that's where generative AI relatively really shines, because you don't have like the validation loop is very short. You can iterate, you can find the proper result, and not just generate something, wait to see if it's good when QA finally tests it after a week. Basically, this is the graph. Like the more it is easy to validate that the result is correct, the more useful it's going to be. Stupid, but this is what it is. I mean, it's not magic, right? Whatever like NVIDIA's top CEO wants to sell to you, it's not magic. I'm going to take a quick break here and talk about legal matters. Step one, I'm not a lawyer. You're probably not a lawyer either. Are lawyers in the room? No? Yes? I don't know. Probably not. So get advice from your lawyer. Like Tommy said it, I'm going to repeat it. Everyone should be repeating it. There's legislation changing all the time. Talk to a lawyer. But, and that's a big but, like as a general rule, from a copyright perspective only, like you wouldn't be reusing any old piece of shit art you find on the internet, and you wouldn't be just copy pasting any code you find on the internet in your code base without doing something. Like if you think of generative AI as the internet giving me something, you're pretty close to thinking in the right direction. It's not in you. You should be doing that already. If you're just copy pasting images from Google in your game, maybe talk to a lawyer. Like for the code side of things, like code that you don't understand is broken by design. Like you can't debug it, you can't extend it, you can't do anything with it. If you think of generative code the same way you treat like a solution you find on Stack Overflow, you're on the right direction. Like you need to understand it, rewrite it to fit your code base, adapt it, and then verify it, make sure it works. Right? And if you do that, then you're pretty much sidestepping the question of copyright because you didn't copy the code. You just learned from it and redid it. Similarly for art, like if you don't have the copyright on the art that's being generated, then you don't own it. You can't do anything with it. So, and if nobody owns it, then you don't own it either. And if you put it in your game, then everyone can use it. And I guess that's why Disney doesn't do Mickey Mouse things with generative AI, because then everyone could be using it. I mean, that's it. So let's talk more clearly about a few of the use that we do in-house. Basically, we're trying to reduce manual labor and then concentrate on the process for higher creativity. Like the easiest example of that is mood boards. Like if you're building a mood board, you're basically searching the web for images, picking some images that give you the feeling that you need, print them on a board or copy paste them over each other, find variants of these images because this one is not really the one you want something more like this one or whatever. And then you just cut and mash it, put stuff together. Like generative AI is just built for building this sort of repetitive, generate me the image. Oh, I want something that's more like this, less like that. Put all of these images together and that's it. Can generate variant quickly, and it's instant validation. Like a mood board is basically like, does it show the mood or the intent that I want it to show? Like, you know once you see it. And most importantly, it does not end up in game assets. So even though the copyright situation is a bit murky, you don't care because nobody's going to see it. It's going to be on your wall somewhere, on your Confluence or whatever. One thing we also do in-house is a bit of rephrasing or summarizing. A good example of that, like we do a lot of biz dev, and sometimes working a client, they're like, oh, can you send me a bio of the people that are going to be in my project? Just have somebody generate bullet points and then make a paragraph for the client. And again, it's instant validation. The bullet points are there, the text is there, is the thing in there, does it make sense? And you're not generating a book, you're generating like 2 paragraphs. Super easy to validate. Same thing, like if you're rephrasing for a different audience, you could have like an entire TDD written, not entire, that's too long, but like a few pages. Say like, oh, can you re-summarize this for like a non-technical audience? And right away, if you read it, it's shorter, does it highlight the risk, but strips out the details and that sort of stuff. And so big limitation on this, like you're the expert on what's important, like technically, business-wise or whatever. So don't let AI summarize like whole text without verifying or giving you the input. Like if you have a 5-page report, and you ask like, hey, ChatGPT, what does it say in there? It's quite possible that it's going to miss the second paragraph that's the most important thing for you, because like ChatGPT is not your company, it's not your TD, it's not your creative director, it doesn't know what's important for you. So if you can pick the paragraphs of the things that make sense and then ask a generative AI to summarize that paragraph, then yeah, you're going to get what you need. But if you're trying to rely on it to understand how your company or your project works, then it doesn't. And one example that we were trying to build in-house is a documentation chatbot. Like if anybody's used like Confluence or like any other wiki system like that, the search system are usually pretty abysmal. So using a chatbot that can sort of point you in the right page, not necessarily summarize you the right thing, because we know it doesn't necessarily give you the right thing, but point you in the right direction when you ask for a question, is already a better search engine for that limited use. As mentioned earlier by Tommy, I mean, early concept work is the best example probably for generative AI. Basically, you have an artist sitting next to an art director, you start from a bunch of ideas, you throw shit at the prompt, like, oh, I want it like more like that, less like that. Okay, of this 4, I want this one. It's basically what an artist has been doing before. Like they were drawing variation or proposing solution and all that. So, and obviously, like in our case, an artist will create the final concept when using these as reference. Like we use these generative prompts mostly for like internal pitches. Then when we need like more larger audience thing, an artist will use these ideas and finish the art. Because sometimes we want to put the concept art on the website or do something else with it. Like you want like the human juice in it. I think that was your expression. It's pretty good. One sentence that was said by one of my art director friends, like the best concept art is not the one doing the best art, but it's the one that can create variation and responds to feedback faster. Because you want to get a short iteration loop of like, I've made this, but do you want this more like that or more like that? And most of the generative AI image generation project, that's pretty much what they're giving you. Like they're giving you a few choices. You can point them in the right direction. You can expand them. You can do whatever. And a good example of that, and you've seen, I mean, I could fill a slide with all examples of all these tools. I just picked these because they're funny. Like, oh, I have cats on a bed, make them more like tigers. Cool. I have a horse. Could it be more like a unicorn, a bit, or very much more like a unicorn? And that's basically what you're doing into artists. Like your concept art is thinking of ideas, making things more like something, less like something, expanding the board, like adding context, doing a bunch of different things. And yeah, so in conclusion, I mean, the field only started like a few years back. Yes, it's still early. Things are changing very quickly. Will they keep changing that quickly for a long time? I mean, I'm usually quite pragmatic and not optimistic about most things, but if you promise me exponential growth for a while, I'm going to be slightly skeptical. Other things like generative AI for us, it's just a new tool. Like others in the past, it's just try to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Don't try to fit a square peg in a round hole, basically. It has advantages, and it has a lot of limitation, especially when you think of it like specifically about specific use and not globally about all the things, right? Globally, that's where the potential is. But when you look at specific cases, that's when the limitations are. Trust but verify. And like all tools, its usefulness would greatly depend on your use cases. Like if you have some specific things, like if you're building games for PS5 or Xbox or Nintendo, no model has been trained on their API yet. So it's mostly going to try to figure it out. And usually that's when it doesn't figure it out. Generative AI also, like I said a bunch of times, like it particularly shines when correctness and quality can be quickly established, and it suffers in the contrary. Like if you know if something is right just by looking at it or by doing a quick test on it, then you can iterate and iterate and iterate. And the reason why you want to iterate and iterate and iterate is that it doesn't always give you the right answer the first time. It doesn't always give you what you want the first time. It's not like a colleague that you've been working with for 10 years. Like they know how your brain works. They know how you think. If you ask them do something this way or talk to a designer and they tell you about something they're doing, you're trying to implement it. Like if you've been working together for a while, there are a lot of things that are unsaid, and there can't be a lot of things that are unsaid about generative AI because first, if you don't say it, it doesn't know. And it's been trained on such a large, like a monumental base of data that it's not specific to what you want it to do. That's where you have to come in. That's where you need to validate. So just a quick step, like what's the situation of behavior? So right now, we don't use generative AI for producing game assets or code for copyright reason and ethical reason. It's used by artists as part of their tool set to explore ideas in early pitches only. And we're very careful in what tools we use. We look at their history, what they mention, how they train their model, and everything like that. We do also exploratory work on documentation, rapid prototyping, issue processing, and other peripheral tasks, nothing related to directly producing game assets and game code. There's a lot of questions remaining for generative AI, a lot of things I didn't mention about, like you'll notice I didn't talk about cost. Cost is a big one because you always have to end up paying for these things. I didn't talk about licensing, copyrights, and revenue for training material. That's a funny one for me as somebody in tech and programming, because programmers and artists have a long history of different vision of this one. So programmers for the last, let's say, like 15 years, we're used to putting just a bunch of codes and a bunch of answers, Stack Overflow, and people just copy pasting our shit. And when we put it there, we know it's going to end up somewhere else. Does that mean necessarily that we're okay with it ending up in a model? Not necessarily, but probably a bit more than artists who are just making their portfolio on ArtStation, putting photos on Instagram, and really don't want Meta to like take all their things and putting into a model. So there's a difference there, obviously. Same thing I didn't mention, but same thing on the music side of things. There are styles of music that are very used to sampling and doing a bunch of different things with other things. And there are other style where if you sample, then you need to credit, you need to give some money and something like that. So all of this will need to be reconciled together. And one last thing is and that's a big one, like never let your chatbot hallucinate your clients. There's a nice article there about an air flight company in Canada. It's pretty funny. Just look it up. It's Air Canada. You can find it. And that's it. Thank you. There's like 3 minutes for a question. I don't know where. If you have a question for Tommy, he's there as well. He can come in front if there's a question for him. Yes, I can definitely put the QR code back. I will give this slides to develop, and it's going to be online at some point. We're probably going to make. Nope. Hi. Yeah. Yes. No questions? Cool. I guess that was clear enough.